Taxation is theft.
Please, at least leave us alone in our living room.
My job is to find the truth.
Double the taxes. I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. Triple the taxes.
This is an IRS agent's dream.
If you think that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourself.
Beautiful, lovely taxes.
Sorry, but I don't do taxes.
Did you see the memo about this?
The government is a greedy piglet.
Just leave us alone.
Do you know what Ralph just said?
The roads.
You boys like Mexico? I'm as bad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
Hello, welcome back. Taxation is theft. What's going on, guys? I have an awesome guest today, Joshua Dial. Some of you may know him from as the former campaign manager for Joe Exotic when he was running for governor. Welcome. How's it going?
Hey, doing all right. Sticking in there.
Awesome.
Countdown for this new episode of Tiger King tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah. So what's because I'm super behind on that. So I just watched like a few of the episodes. Are they doing like one episode at a time, or is this just like a new?
No, they were all released at once, but the final, like this add-on episodes, just because it was so popular. Okay. I believe I heard they had 46 million viewers, which was like equal or close to what Stranger Things did on their whole first season. So they did this add-on. What they did for me, like I'll be in it. They sent me a iPad Pro, which yes, I did try to get them to like let me keep, but no, they would not. They let me keep the ear pods though, but I think that's just because they didn't want, coronavirus, ear wax. I don't know. I'm not going to complain. I just found out today I get to keep the ear pods. I'm happy.
Nice. Okay.
But it's going to be like a where are they now / what did you really think, and kind of a cleaning up episode, and also kind of seeing where everybody's at now and what they're doing now. So it should be fun. Not for me, because it's just going to blow my inbox up even more. Thank God I'm off work tomorrow. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy doing like the cameos and I enjoy doing the interviews and stuff, but it just takes so much out of me. I mean, it's to use a phrase, taxing.
Oh, that's terrible. Man, you're making me feel so terrible right now. I hate to be the taxing guy. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, let's. I'm really interested because you've been a longtime libertarian, right?
Not a longtime libertarian. No. I was actually a Democrat, and I came to the Libertarian Party. Now, I was first introduced to libertarianism back in 2008 with my college roommate, and I loved it right away. But Oklahoma didn't get ballot access until 2016, I believe. There were the bullshit laws where you had to have like some obscure and an absurd amount of percentage and signatures to get on the ballot. Ballot access was just totally fucked in Oklahoma, and we had one congressman take care of that, and so we were able to get on the ballot. And then once I was made aware that we were on the ballot here, I jumped over to the Libertarian Party, and I still work campaigns from here and now. So you may see some stuff about Democrats on my page, but it's just a job,
You're right.
But my heart will always belong to libertarians and libertarianism. And on every podcast I do, I preach it. I was just on with Tampa, Florida, with I can't remember the name of the show. They'll kill me for not remembering, but they're a huge radio station, and it's like the biggest market in Tampa. And I did one with People Magazine. I did one with TMZ. Even this one I did with Netflix. I keep on reiterating, like, hey, Joe Exotic was not a libertarian, so let's not get this like our ideas conflated here, and be under the impression that this man knew what our party actually stands for. I just felt like there needed to be somebody there to protect the party, but also the voters that were going to vote for him, because I knew there were going to be people to vote for him, no matter what kind of campaign manager he got. The question was, should I let it be some random fangirl who knows nothing about politics and just lets Joe run off with his, you know, like, I don't even know what his political philosophy was. Like, statist, like a statist conservative. I don't know. Like, I don't know how you could label Joe. He just didn't know, like debate prep. Like, I was always so scared that, like, maybe you know Aaron Adams, surely. And
Yeah.
I know, like, most of your guests know Aaron Adams. Well, Aaron's a good friend of mine. She actually, gave me a leg up after the campaign and after the convention, let me move up here to Stillwater with her till I could get my own place here. And anyways, I was so afraid because I mean, me and Aaron were friends on the side, and I was so afraid she was going to nail me by asking Joe, like, having, her candidate, she was running the candidate and I was running, an opposing candidate. And I was so afraid they were going to ask about, like, one of the first through 10 amendments, like, that's like the first thing I was worried about. Like, so I printed off 1 through 10. I did not even go through the rest. I just did the first to the 10th amendment, printed them on a piece of paper, because you could not debate prep this guy. He'd be in the limo on the way right up, and he'd be watching the episodes of Criminal Minds on the limo TV DVD player. And I'd be like, Joe, let's go over some of this stuff, No, I got it. But I finally, towards the end, would get him to take that piece of paper, and he'd just look at it. Just, what a nightmare. This guy was a quack. He knew nothing. But it was fun meeting Oklahoma libertarians. Like, Oklahoma libertarians are awesome. And it's a good credit to them that among our ranks are growing pretty quickly, for just gaining access to the ballot line. I feel like, we're moving pretty fast. That being said, only 600 people voted for Joe. So it's not like, it was 19%, but it was only 600 people. And, yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Hold on. So 600 people turned into 19%. So that's only a few thousand that voted in the general election?
No. Joe was a candidate in the Libertarian gubernatorial primary. There were two other candidates that had filed the run. Yes.
I was watching the show.
I think we had the first in the nation Libertarian primary.
Wow.
Runoff. Yeah.
That changes everything, because I was watching. I saw that episode today, actually, where, like, there's like a party at like a bar or something, and they're watching the results come on the screen, and
primary night.
Yeah, so I was like, he actually did really good. That's amazing. But I didn't realize that's the primary. So that totally changes my perspective on that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask, like, because there's usually we see some of those candidates every once in a while. McAfee, who, although I think he was more libertarian, but he was kind of like one of these crazy uncontrollable characters. Vermin Supreme is a lot of people, I think, maybe perceive him that way, even though he's actually pretty sane. But then there's the question of, okay, but is he actually libertarian? Do we need a satire candidate? Like, we see a lot of these people kind of pop up every once in a while, and there's always the question of, is this going to be good for the party, or is this going to, like, make people? Is this going to, like, confirm with everybody that we're the crazy people that,
Right.
So I don't know. What do you think? Like, do you think his run helped the party? Do you think that, like, that him being associated with the party in any way at this point, do you think that's good or bad, or?
Excuse me. Been doing a lot of talking. So those 600 votes, I'd be willing to gamble probably, and this isn't to be my main job working for Joe. I knew that because my first job was to make sure, even though it was against my principle and I did not fight hard enough for it, my technical job for Joe was to get the Executive Committee of Oklahoma to allow independents to vote in the primary. Had that happened, Joe Exotic would have won the nomination for the Libertarian candidate for governor, and then been arrested a month later as a elected gubernatorial candidate. you know,
So he had a lot of support from outside of the party.
he had a lot of support from outside the party, but all the votes, like almost all 600 of those votes, were votes of me doing this, taking an envelope, licking it, putting a stamp on it, putting a voter registration form in it, and then communicating to people with on social media. And I mean, everywhere I went, I still have my folder from my campaign days. I still have voter registration forms in my campaign folder. I mean, I registered the hell out of people. I mean, everywhere I went, I registered people, and I'd be willing to gamble a big majority of those, even 600 of the even 18% that did vote for Joe, were people that I brought to the party by registering them through Joe. So the question becomes, how many of those 600 people did we lose, or did we actually gain more? I'm not in a position personally right now to know that. I know where to find that data, but I don't know that off the top of my head. But that's something that I think that we as the party should look at. You know, I mean, that's like my friend Aaron Adams always tells me, look for the pros and cons, you know, write them all down. And, you know, sometimes you get the unforeseen, like the accident where, you know, Travis shot himself. You know, there were political scenarios, you know, to be blunt, where I advised Joe not to get married when he got married because, you know, he had a sympathy vote. And by getting married, you know, 2 months after your husband kills himself, you know, it's you'll lose that sympathy vote right away. I mean, come on, this is politics 101. I mean, let's be frank about it. I mean, who was it? Benjamin Franklin that said that the first duty of a politician is to get reelected, something like that. Right. I believe it was. It really was. It may not have been Franklin, but it was one of them.
Yeah.
One of the founding. Yeah.
No, and that's absolutely true because it's, you know, it's, I mean, you know, whatever policies or, you know, whatever you have, they're kind of meaningless unless you are elected, to some degree. But yeah, that would be really interesting information to, you know, to track those people down and see, you know, what has that actually done.
Yeah. I really, just to add on to that real quick, sorry, I don't really mean to drag that on real quick, but there's something further that I really think, you know, at the end of the day with Joe in Oklahoma, it strengthened our party. Since Joe has, you know, the whole Joe fiasco, we've had several people in Oklahoma win local elected offices. I know just a few off the top of my head that are, you know, that I worked with. And so, you know, there's Chris Powell, there's Chad Williams, there's a couple others down south that I'm not more familiar with, but I know of. So I think that maybe having such a what we had three candidates. We had Rex, who was more of a radical. Chris is more of a pragmatist, and Joe is the wild card. As long as you can have a wild card, I feel, in a race, as long as you have two other candidates, one on each side to balance it out. Because when you do that, it brings out people. It brings up voter participation. It helps you get to that 2.5% or that 5% mark, whatever mark it is your state needs to get ballot access or to keep ballot access, to maintain it. So, you know, there is another angle to that. It's just something that people maybe aren't thinking of a lot. I know some people in Oklahoma have, but there are benefits to having folks like Vermin Supreme, Joe Exotic, and folks like that on the ticket, on a ticket at least, I will say.
Sorry, my dog's going crazy over there. Yeah, it's that totally makes sense. And like, you know, one of the things that that I kind of like to point out is that, like, so right now we have our libertarian presidential primary, and for the most part, most of our candidates just completely agree on everything. And you compare that, and you know, you compare that to what the Democrats are doing, and you've got all the Democrats on stage, and they're like ready to kill each other. But then you go back to the Libertarians, and like everyone's watching the Democrat thing. Like even people who aren't Democrats tune in just to, like, you know, I just want to see what these idiots are going to say to each other. Then you go back to the Democrats or to the Republicans, and they're all like, oh yeah, no, we agree with each other. And it makes it kind of boring, almost to the point where, like, most of the libertarians, as I'm going to these conventions, you know, you ask them, well, have you seen any of the debates? They've been online. Oh, no, I haven't. It's like, you know, they become very uninteresting when it's just like a bunch of people agreeing. So I can totally see where that polarization kind of creates that. And, you know, I like to point out that, like, what was his name? Colin Kaepernick. Like, that was like when he was endorsed by Nike, everybody's like, oh my God, Nike's going to go out of business because, you know, and then, like, people were boycotting and like all this other stuff, and their stock crashed. And it's like, yeah, all that stuff happened, but they also, like, filled the news cycle for like 1 or 2 weeks. And that's all people were talking about. And then, you know, I don't know if they went separate ways or what happened, but it kind of disappeared. And now their stock is like higher than ever. So it's like, it's you know, maybe I guess when something is irrelevant, it takes like some huge event to grab that attention and bring people in. And then once you have their attention, you can go in a completely different direction. You can do something else. But it really is about, like, you know, getting that hook, you know, to get people to you know, at least start paying attention and looking in that direction.
Yeah. Well, and you know, something that we had that benefited us in Oklahoma was at the same time, the same day, same election day, we had medical marijuana on a ballot, and it was a citizen-driven petition initiative, and you know, I think a lot of folks that might look to that, and they could maybe use that to their advantage one day if an opening becomes available, and, you know, maybe say, you know, a libertarian gets in a United States Senate race with only one, you know, competitor by some crazy, you know, something. This is the age of Trump, people. Anything could happen.
Right.
Anything could happen. So it's not out of the realm of the possibility. But definitely sometimes you need to throw a wrench in the gears and grind shit up a little bit. You do. It brings. You bring the loyalists in because they're here to protect the party and the SOP and call you out when you're fucking up. You have the pragmatists who are, you know, just kind of, I don't know what the pragmatists are doing. I mean, the pragmatists are doing. And, you know, you got all your different sects of libertarianism. When they're all contributing because they all feel like they're protecting their party, it brings everybody out. It brings new members to the party. So I think a lesson could be learned from Oklahoma's gubernatorial primary for sure. A couple lessons.
That's interesting. It's almost like, because I've heard of some people that were considering running, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, but I'm afraid Vermin Supreme might get the nomination, and if he does, I don't want to be anyway associated with him."
Sure.
But I think you know, kind of going on what you're saying, is we should have the opposite attitude. If you don't, and like I like Vermin, so I'm not I'm not putting him down, but if that's your position, to, you know, okay, so you don't agree with him, so come out and don't agree with him and start an argument or a conversation with him, because, like, look, realistically, I would do just about anything to debate Bernie Sanders, because I know there are a lot of people who follow him. They think he's the right solution for a lot of problems, and I want to offer them a different solution, and I want to tell them how wrong he is. And that would be, I think, an amazing debate. But that's never going to happen. But if you think there's, you know, some guy, like there's like the Libertarian Socialist Caucus, there's, you know, all these people that might be, maybe they're not Bernie Sanders, but they're maybe in that direction. If you think they're wrong, then run against them and debate them, and create that conversation, because yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Like, if you want to create that conversation in a way that people are going to get engaged and pay attention to it, make a public spectacle out of it, and don't be like, oh, I don't even want to be seen on stage with that guy. No, get on stage with that guy. I hear so many people telling me, like, you know, when I'm you know, interested in doing a podcast or something, in my race, I'm like, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go on the show. And they're like, oh, that's a Trump supporting show. Or, ooh, that's a Democrat show. And I'm like, so that means I get to talk to Trump supporters and I get to talk to Democrats, and maybe we'll be able to. And what's funny is, like, I went on this Trump supporter show, and he was actually like, a couple times he was just like, man, I just agreed with everything you just said. It's phenomenal when that stuff happens, but it's like, yeah, we can't exist in a vacuum and expect the world to see, all that we have to offer, because it's like, it's not, I guess it's not good TV.
Right. And I don't know. So
So I want to ask, because you said earlier that you weren't a longtime libertarian, but you, as soon as the Libertarian Party had ballot access, you did move over there. Were you, when you were working for the Democrats, were you kind of libertarian leaning, or like?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was one of those Democrats that are like, great, but how are we going to pay for it? Or
right.
Like, why exactly are we going to war? Why are we going for oil? I was one of those people that was like, I mean, I'm an environmentalist myself, but I consider myself a practical environmentalist, or a libertarian environmentalist, if you will. I just simply don't contribute. I limit my carbon footprint. I do not believe in, even when I was a Democrat, never will I advocate for a carbon tax. So there's a bunch of things that, I was basically a libertarian sitting in the Democratic Party. But, I just never had anyone, really reach out to me and recruit me. And I think that's maybe a lesson that we could also learn there, is that there are so many great people on the left that you would never guess that would jump and are willing, because, some of this stuff is negotiable. This is politics. Now, not your principle is not negotiable. Policy is, as long as it doesn't violate principle. And I believe that there is a way that we can pull people into our fold. I came over, you guys pulled me into your fold. I know that we can pull more people like me in. There are plenty of Democrats out there that are wanting to say, like me, just like me. I just got all my taxes intercepted because of student loans. And that's great, that's what it is. But had I not, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know really where I was going with that.
Well, I think there's, yes, I'm sure there are, like, when we see, maybe the crazy Democrats on TV, like, we only even usually see a few of them, even though there's, like, how many hundreds of them elected, just at the federal
they get all
level.
the air.
Yeah, and because they're saying those outrageous things, we don't consider that, maybe a lot of them aren't that bad. It's just what do they call it? The loud minority. And there's certainly that. And sometimes that loud minority is a lot of people. Sure. But we're also talking about, the two big parties that are made up of, like, 80 million people each, or, when you consider their voters and everything else. So, I think that's absolutely fair to say. And, like, the other thing too is, like, a lot of people will criticize my campaign as being outrageous, but we've brought over, like, self-proclaimed socialists who all of a sudden one day were like, yeah, taxation is theft. So it's like, I think a lot of people throw that away as like, oh, those Democrats, oh, those Republicans. But I think that's a terrible way to look at it. There's absolutely, we just have to reach out in the right way, and we'll find plenty of people who support, libertarian ideologies.
Yeah. And I mean, as someone who has converted, hundreds of libertarians here in Oklahoma, in the service of Joe Exotic, being his basically shadow campaign that I ran for him. All you got to do is ask, how are you going to pay for it? To a Democrat or a Republican when they propose something, how are you going to pay for it? And that's all you got to do to get the conversation started. And that automatically leads into taxation is theft. It always does end in, well, in that case, taxation is theft, or therefore taxation is theft. So start the conversation, with that kind of stuff. And, it's a good opening. That's what I find. I've converted tons and tons of libertarians, like I was trying to go earlier, I got my taxes intercepted from student loans, but they're almost paid off. That's why I let them take them, because it paid them off. But I just paid off my student loans. Had I been a Democrat, how freaking fair would that be for me to have just paid off hundreds of, tens of thousands of dollars in student loans? Now all of a sudden everybody gets free college, and on top of that, my taxes get raised, and I don't get any of that money back. And if you pitch it to them in that way, like, and just bring it all back to the taxation and how it's that, you can draw a huge audience. You can draw a huge following from the Republicans and the Democrats. The Tea Party's lost all its steam. They've turned into pussies and Trump bootlickers. We could take over. We could bring in some of those people. I know we don't want all of them. We could bring in some of those people. We could bring in some Bernie people. We really could. We really could. Even Biden people. Definitely Biden people.
Yeah. And so this is interesting too, because a lot of, and I know this is because of our size, but I think a lot of people want to, when we say bring people in, what does that mean? Because you can bring them in as your support and your voters, which is great. But some people want to get them registered, and then the next thing you know, they want them to become delegates, or they want them to run, especially at the local level. And I think that can potentially be dangerous, because you are bringing people in from another place, and they might not fully understand what libertarian really means. So I think there's like, and, at the same time, you definitely don't want the people who are saying, oh, that guy's not a real libertarian, we don't want him here. We definitely don't want that. But I think maybe there's like some sort of I don't know what you would call it, like an enrollment process that you would go through, where like there's actually like, this is what we're about. Because I know, like, when, like, let's say you have Democrats or Republicans, right? These are massive organizations, and they're trying to recruit people on a massive scale, and they have a really great process for it. But it's like they'll go to one issue voters and say, oh yeah, we're on your side with that, so you should come with us. And that really grows their base, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that they understand the principles of the rest of their platform or anything else. And they probably really don't care, because when you look at those organizations, those are so well controlled from, their internal infrastructure that, and it's because they're so, they've got millions of supporters, of course. The average Democrat voter does not, like, they don't even consider becoming a delegate or any of that stuff, because they're just like, no, I just want to vote blue, vote red, whatever. So I think that's in part because of our size, and we have to kind of tread lightly, so to speak, to figure out, I guess, the right balance for that.
Yeah, and I think part of that conversation is going to have to be whether or not we're going to go along with what the other two parties are doing, and run primaries instead of nominating by convention. I know that's a very unpopular thing to say, but it's a conversation that might need to be had, because the monies are already being spent on the two parties. Why should the monies be spent on two big parties and we don't get the money? I mean, come on, can we not at least take the attitude of let's break the system? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love nominating by convention, I do. But people like me, for instance, like, I'm not going to convention this year. I can't afford to take, the time off work. I will not be able to make my rent. I don't have the vacation time accrued. I just can't.
Right.
But so I get no choice in who becomes a Libertarian nominee.
It's also
so I think there's a lot of people that maybe that maybe want to have this conversation, but it's such a loud voice out there, and with good reason, but such a loud voice out there that wants to say, no, we're not going to use use the money because it's contradictory to what we're saying. But I mean, I feel like that's really a big component of it.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people take into the consideration about, just the free advertising you get out of that. Like
the CNN coverage alone would bring millions.
Yeah.
Would bring millions.
And I wonder, well, because I mean, Joe Exotic's primary was aired on TV. That's exposure. Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, going out one-to-one, going out doing, running booths at festivals and, all that kind of stuff. That's great. But when you can get on the mainstream TV, it's like it creates a sort of legitimacy. And I know, like, there's so many arguments against that. There's so many bad things about it, and you can completely agree with those. But unfortunately that's the world we live in. If we want people to take us seriously, it's a matter of hanging out with the cool kids on the channels that suck, all the fake news channels and everything. Because at the end of the day, most of the voters are still they're still voting in the same way. They're still expecting to get their information from the same place. And until we can change that by becoming part of that conversation, it's almost like we're over here and everybody else is over there, and we're trying to say, hey, come over here, and we refuse to go over there and say, hey, I want you to hear something. And once we're over there and they hear us and they agree, then we can come back over to where we are. But we don't want to walk all the way over there and then come back. It's like that. No, that's no. We're not allowed to go there. That's a bad place.
I mean, yeah. There's just so much emotion attached to it because so many people have fought so hard to get ballot access, and they get our party to where it is at this point right now. So I totally understand it, but we've definitely got to have a serious conversation about this for sure as a party. I don't know how that would happen, but I know it needs to be done. Just as anyone that's watched the Tiger King knows I'm an honest, straight shooting guy, and I just call it like I see it, and that's how I see it, and that's what I'm going to call it. I think we're going to have to play the game. I mean, once we have the position to change the rules, we can change the rules. But until then, I'm afraid that there's going to be a conversation about should we play by the rules. And no, I don't mean necessarily everything, but at least having our name on the ballot on primaries, on Super Tuesdays,
right?
We'd get coverage no matter what, because we would take away from candidates, and that alone would give us coverage. And I know that's not forsaking everything. I know I'm not the only libertarian that believes this, but I also know I'm probably in the minority. So,
yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting because, I see a lot of people who are against all that stuff. At the same time, a lot of them are, they're the people who are very much anti-government, like maybe even anarchists. But then at the same time, we go to these conventions and we argue over rules, and it's like, and it's like, okay, we're doing the same thing that we say we hate. And I understand there's a purpose for it also, but I think that also, especially when we're trying to, it's weird. It's like a lot of the libertarian conventions, a lot of people want to use that to advertise libertarianism, but at the same time you have the business meeting going on, which is just going to chase anybody away. So it's like, I think even those should maybe be kept secret, or not secret, separate. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely something there, but we also have to keep trying new strategies and things too. It's a lot of people are like, yeah, we don't want to participate in the government systems, but you can look at it a different way too. You can look at it like, okay, that is the system. Let's manipulate it to our advantage. Let's use it to our advantage. Mm-hmm. Think about it. If they have primaries and we all stop paying if every single libertarian who says taxation is theft all stop paying taxes, and the only people paying those taxes are the people who think taxes are good, is that really stealing? I mean, these are the people who want to rob from us. Let them pay for the primaries. Let them understand that they're being robbed to pay for our primaries. Maybe that's a good point you can make with it. But yeah, it's, it is the system we have, and let's take it and manipulate it and do whatever we can with it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we got to get in first. That's the point. We got to get in first. We can't do anything from the outside. You got to go. You got to do it from the inside. I mean, lobbying and activism can do a lot, but it cannot do everything. At the end of the day, we're going to have someone who, I hate to say sacrifice principle because that just, but is willing to play the game like as the rules are written, and someone that we can trust to get in there. And once they're in there, they can revert back to libertarianism, and let's see what we can get rid of.
Right. And to anybody who says you can't fix it from the inside, they've probably never heard of termites. Right. But yeah, there's a million different ways to look at it. So, when you were working on Joe Exotic's campaign, what was like when you were dealing with voters, did you talk to them a lot about libertarianism? And because I know you said like he was not, he didn't really understand what these things were. Was there, I don't know, did you have any conversations or interactions with the people who were supporting him, and like really figure out if they were libertarian, or try to kind of educate them and bring them into like, not just registered libertarians so they could vote for him, but like to actually kind of like, what was your experience with that?
Well, the thing with Joe was, Joe was going to do whatever he wanted to do. Especially at the beginning. Towards the end, he gave me more control over it. But basically, what you have to do with someone like Joe, and I don't know, I hope all candidates aren't like this, but you have to make them a proposal in a way that makes them think that it's their own proposal to propose to you to do. And that's how it was like with Joe every day. So I kind of like, hey, did you know that, I can have a pond in a field next to you, and you'd have to go to Walmart or wherever and pay for a fishing license. All of a sudden that becomes his idea, and all of a sudden he's going everywhere preaching a pretty libertarian idea, which is it's bullshit that we have to, if I own a pond next to your house, that you would have to go buy a fishing license to come to my house on the pond that I dug, I put the water in, and I put the fish in, and you would have to pay a license to fish in that pond. So we did stuff like that. I did my best. That's all I can say. Stuff like that, of course, and that's very Oklahoma localized right. Stuff, but we did stuff like that. I kind of tried to just sprinkle it in a little bit everywhere. But towards the end, after Travis died, I ended up becoming not only his campaign manager, but his photographer and videographer, along with his video editor.
That's how most libertarian campaigns run.
Yeah. So I ended up, producing all the commercials and all that stuff. And when I got to that point, I suddenly had tons of control over what was being put out. And we were able to put out some great videos. I had one video I produced. I remember it got like 144,000 views within just a couple days, which wow. which was more than anything he had on his page. So there's things that can be done.
Was he starting to follow scripts at that point?
No, he never followed a script, but we had plenty of redos. I mean, it's just putting the camera, you're in a tiger cage and they're just at your feet, and he's in with the other tigers and they're at his feet. And it's like you're trying not to shake, keep from shaking the lens. And like you mess up and he's like, God damn it. And you gotta go restart. It's just, what a nightmare.
Oh man. That sounds
I enjoyed it though. I say it's a nightmare, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it sounds exciting. But I know
it was a quest.
Yeah,
it was a quest. That's the word, not adventure, not anything. A quest.
Right.
And I did not obtain anything.
Good experiences. There's always that.
Yeah.
So,
and bad ones.
yeah. So what's oh, someone's saying Kenneth Blevins, he's one of the presidential candidates. He's saying if Mr. Dial wants to help another campaign, I know a guy. Are you working on any campaigns right now?
Not right now. I'm not. No, I'm not.
Are you
Haven't really.
well, cuz I
Uh,
mean, you said you were I mean, you're interested in working on campaigns at this point still, right? What's
I'd have to look at the candidate, look at the race, look at what would need to be done, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's something I'm definitely interested in doing again one day. For the right candidate, for sure. For the
right?
right candidate. I mean,
Awesome.
I've had I think two or three folks approach me. One Democrat, one like Steve Bannon alt right, like further right than Trump lady, and another Republican. But yeah, just you know, nothing really looked good that at least anyone's approached me so far.
Right.
I mean, I got to give up a lot I'm giving up a lot, and that's a lot to give up. So I'd really have to believe in someone to give that all up already. I mean, it's only been 4 years. Feels like, an eternity, but feels
Yeah.
like yesterday, honestly.
Well, so I mean, are you active with like any other I guess libertarian things? We talked about conventions and some of these other things. Like, how active are you within that world?
Not really much right now. I'd step back because of all this stuff going on. I'm not really at 100%. Because like the documentary, like you said, you haven't watched it. Like it has footage of like the accident,
Yeah.
and I've seen it, and it messed me up. So and I've been dreading this documentary coming out ever since I found out it was sold to Netflix. So like my mental health has just been so messed up. So I've pulled back from everything. I was doing vice chair of North Central Oklahoma Libertarian Party. I was looking into doing something for outright. But no, not right now. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to get well, and then I'm going to get back in the game for sure, though.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
But
Yeah, definitely.
I've got to get well first, though. I mean, it was a hard realization to come to, but I've got to take care of myself and make sure myself and my fiance are taking, that our mental health, our physical health, and our well-being is okay before I pledge my life again to a campaign.
Right. Absolutely. And especially with Corona going around now,
Yeah.
that's not making things easier. Um, so yeah, I mean, what's like, I don't know. Do you have any like really interesting stories like from because I'm really kind of curious about the actual voters, like because I'm always trying to figure out how do we reverse engineer people. So I'm just wondering like how many like out of the voters themselves, like personally, like can you think of like a one specific person, and what was their thought process through all this, and have they changed at all through the course of this campaign, and that sort of thing, like, or were they just
Um,
like, oh, this guy's, I love him because he's crazy, because I know
yeah.
there's plenty of people like that, but like was there any change within people or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, because his message that I was able to at least bargain with him to message, which was the best I could get out of him, was he would go up there and say, "I'm going to run this state like a business," and he wanted to say something much worse. But I want to, he said, I want to audit all the departments. I want to start cutting departments and stuff like that. And I mean, sorry, my brain.
It's all good.
I don't remember what we were talking about. I'm so sorry,
The
guys.
voters themselves, like what was the, like if you can think of like one specific voter and how they came to the campaign and how they changed maybe through following, or were there even any voters that or maybe volunteers that stuck through the campaign that you saw enough to change? Because I know a lot of times you get voters who are like, you run into them once at a thing, and then you talk to them for 5 minutes and they're gone forever. But like maybe was there anyone that maybe kind of stuck around through the campaign that you think maybe changed over time through the campaign, through having this discussion, anything like that?
Not really. I mean, like the people that were voting for Joe were like probably 95% on the Trump train, 5% on, the anti other two candidates that were running train. That's all it was. Joe had the anti-establishment vote, and he had the Trump train folks that, we ran a Republican gubernatorial candidate that was not very popular, or we didn't, but they did on the Republican side. And so as a result, we gained a lot of Republicans from that. So that's, really what they were. They mostly reverted back to their present state or former states.
All right. I'm seeing some questions come in. Myra's asking, and feel free to say anyone who's not me. Don't be biased, but she's asking, who's your favorite LP presidential candidate? If you do want to say me, that's totally cool too. Have you been following it all?
Yeah, I've been following lightly. I gave a shout out to Joe, you, and Vermin on a podcast I did earlier.
Awesome.
Because they were like, who the hell's even running for the Libertarian Party? So I gave y'all a shout out. That's as far as I'm willing to go.
Right. Yeah, and that's
those three I gave a shout out.
Nice. Thank you.
As far as I'm willing to go.
And that's like that's the same problem we were talking about before. Who the hell is even running? There's like a whole Wikipedia page about it. Anyone could go, but like, why are yeah, it's because we're just all.
But this Tiger King thing, to get back to that, I know a lot of people probably want to know about that. It's like, with this another episode and these things, I'm going to be going and getting quite a bit of exposure potentially. Most likely going to get a lot of exposure. Every interview I've had and every interview I'm going to continue to wheedle in libertarian principles. So let everyone know that's watching that, if I do get a microphone, I am going to always let people know, in whatever way I can sneak it in. I'm sometimes pretty good. Right now I'm pretty tired and I've got an awful headache, and y'all can probably tell that, but usually I'm pretty adept at sneaking in little liberty lines.
Little taxation theft here and there.
Yeah, a little taxation stuff here and there, and never hurt anybody. Helps a hell of a lot of people I know of.
Yeah. So, okay, another question's coming in. Do you think Carol Baskin killed her husband?
Oh, I don't know.
And another one, should Joe be pardoned? That was like, for me, I was like, hearing the whole thing, I'm like, yeah, he's a libertarian, of course, screw the state. But then I kind of saw everything that went down, and I was like, I don't know.
You just have to ask yourself if you're okay with a guy going to jail for what's effectively the rest of his life because a private citizen was able to collude with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to have someone wear a wire to get someone to talk to someone into, asking for an illegal service. If you think that that's okay, then, he should rot in jail. If you do not, then maybe he should get a pardon. Now, however, if you believe that tigers, shooting a tiger, a healthy tiger, should be punishable by law, then he should not get a pardon. If you do not care about what you do with your own animals, then maybe he should get a pardon. So that's all I'll say there.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way, because that's the facts of the matter. The guy was set up, and he shot some tigers. That's what he went to prison for. I'm not defending Joe. He happens to be one of my least favorite people. And with all my experiences, I'd never probably talk to him again. But the facts are the facts, folks. And, you know, we can hate him all we want. We expelled him from our party here in Oklahoma completely. We censored him when he was still running. I was at the convention. I myself voted to censor my own candidate. He went off the rails that bad. He went off the rails that bad. But
wait, why were you working for him if you wanted to censure him?
Because somebody had to be there to make sure that he didn't completely go off the rails and start campaigning like a Democrat and making the Libertarian Party look like a complete total shit show.
That's a good point, because he still would have been running as a Libertarian.
Sure. Yeah, he didn't need me to run. He needed me to get what he got, because he wouldn't have got near what he got if he wouldn't have had me. But sure, you know, he could have picked some, you know, Trump Republican person, you know, and we'd have a Trump Libertarian or maybe a Bernie Sanders supporter, or have a Bernie-tarian. Do you want those words in the
right
psyche right now? I don't.
Right. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I do want to throw this out there, you know, to go back to your point about shooting tigers, is like when I saw like the first episode, like, yeah, I was totally like the whole breeding cubs thing. I was like, yeah, that is kind of, because like I already kind of like didn't like, you know, dog breed. I'm like, there's so many dogs in the shelters that they got to put down, and like you're over here like breeding dogs, and like, yeah, there is kind of a, I don't know, that's kind of a, and
it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, and it's not like I want, oh yeah, there should be a law and the government should come. Like, no, I don't want to go there. But yeah, that's definitely like, you know, I think those are the things I look at that are kind of like social issues that, like, if we all came to, like, if we promoted the understanding of it, if we, like, someone makes a documentary about how bad this you know, breeding any animal is, and then like people just are like, oh yeah, that's a bad practice, we shouldn't do that. You know, like you were talking about like environmental, and like, you know, how you're, you know, you conserve your waste and recycle and that sort of thing. You know, if people just kind of became aware of these things, I think, you know, we'd be able to solve these issues without having to like put a gun in people's face.
Exactly. I agree.
Let's see. So someone's asking, do you stay in touch with any of your coworkers still from?
No, I do not.
None of them.
I do not. Nope.
And all right. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show. I want to give you an opportunity to you know, throw anything out there. If you want to plug anything, plug a website. If you want to, I don't know, offer anyone to join the LP, your local LP. Plug your favorite topping for pizza, whether it is or isn't pineapple.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got several plugs. I mean, first and foremost, it's got to be the oklp.org. Join if you're in Oklahoma and you're watching. Give oklp.org a visit and consider joining us. We're a good group of folks. We're, you know, people, we look out for each other. We don't believe it's the government's job to look out for each other. We believe that if you need help, like I'm needing help right now and about to ask for help, then, you know, you go to private citizens, you state your case, and you ask for help. You don't have to go get a check from the fucking government. Okay, so next I would say check out my Facebook page. It's under Joshua Dial. I can't add any more friends, but I do have 2 fundraisers. One was set up by Jess Mears and Christy Witchers for me, because I'd never set up a GoFundMe, and they really were moved by my story. I'm halfway to my goal. I'd really like to get to the end of it, and I'm only like 1/5 of the way to my goal on my Facebook fundraiser. So if you guys could go over there and give me a donate, I'd really appreciate it. You know, I just started this job, so I don't qualify for insurance for 90 days. That being said, I have to pay for counseling, psychiatry, and psych meds all out of pocket. and counseling by the half hour, and all that stuff. So any help you guys can give me, in this 90-day period while I'm trying to get back on my feet, and while these wounds are just being torn open with the release of the Tiger King, I might appreciate it. Also, if you don't feel like donating, I have a Cameo. I'm on Cameo. You can just look me up. Just search Tiger King on Cameo, and I'll give you a shout out. Say fuck the feds for your friends or whatever you want, man.
Awesome. So I just found the link for your GoFundMe. I'm putting it in the comments right now, and I'll make sure to put it on the actual video once
Alrighty.
once this is up. Definitely head over there. Drop a few bucks. Everything counts. I know money's tight for everybody, but myself, everybody else, if you're lucky enough to still be employed and still have a little bit of cash floating around, definitely send it out, help some other people. There's all kinds of good causes out there. Definitely, I'm gonna go to this page and make a donation after this video, as a matter of fact. So please help with that. And I guess with that, thank you very much for coming on the show and talking. This has been awesome. Learned a lot, and I'm happy. I'm happy to see that you're still in the game, and that you will be making a comeback at some point. And I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, appreciate it. Best of luck. Hopefully soon I'll be releasing my endorsement for president on the Libertarian side.
Awesome.
So watch
I got my
this
fingers
space
crossed.
for sure. Yeah, I got you.
All right.
All right.
I'll catch you later.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Taxation is theft.
Please, at least leave us alone in our living room.
My job is to find the truth.
Double the taxes. I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. Triple the taxes.
This is an IRS agent's dream.
If you think that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourself.
Beautiful, lovely taxes.
Sorry, but I don't do taxes.
Did you see the memo about this?
The government is a greedy piglet.
Just leave us alone.
Do you know what Ralph just said?
The roads!
You boys like